Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you're joining me today in today's live lecture coming to you from Nkoloma Hadum Wisdom University. Today's date is Oye Market Day in the Igbo lunar calendar and in the Roman Catholic calendar. Today's date is 8/26/2025. Remember, at Nkoloma Hadum, we always advise you to use your naturally given common sense, which we call Ako Nuche in Igbo language. Also, don't forget we are primarily set up to decolonize your mind. That is to free you from mental slavery, from all the misinformation, miseducation, and misdirection that the colonial masters and their stooges are either showing us on the TV or on the phone or telling us, with their mouths. And therefore, that's why we package and present our lectures from Igbo man, from Biafran and African perspectives, where we also encourage you to see things from how they concern you. Stop seeing things from how it's concerning other cultures, because you have to see things from how it is affecting you. Very, very, very important. And we are asking you to please to join us, subscribe, follow, like, comment, and share. Share this lecture to get to everybody. And the title of today's lecture is that the European Union is a vassal to the United States. The European Union, which you know they always call EU leaders, that European Union is a vassal. It's like America is the one controlling them in both the military, economic, political, and world influence. And what is a vassal? A vassal is a state with certain degrees of independence in their internal affairs, but dominated by another in foreign affairs. A vassal, again, a vassal is a state, a country, which has internal independence inside its own country. It is independent, but dominated by another country, in this case, America, dominating them in foreign affairs. And so the European Union was created in 1993, and they rose from 6 membership to 27. Now they are about 27. And their headquarters is in Brussels, Belgium. That's where their headquarters is located. And some of their members are Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Poland, to mention a few. Remember, Britain left the European Union on January 31st, 2020, in the famous Brexit. They left the EU. Do you know why they left the EU? Britain left the EU because they saw that Germany was domineering. Germany was in control of what is going on in the EU, and they don't want to be subservient. They don't want to be under Germany's control, German control. And so they left the European Union in the famous Brexit on January 31st, 2020. And there are some benefits for countries that actually belong to the EU. You can live and work legally in any of the countries. You can visit, you can study, you can share in their health plans, you can have free trade agreements, open free skies for the airlines flying. They can fly anywhere they want, to mention a few. So there are a lot of benefits, because that is why they try to come together, so that every country will be benefiting as a result of being a member of that union. Now, comparatively, the European Union and America, militarily, if you come to military expenditure, the EU spends 1.63% of all their GDP on the military, while America, United States, spends 4.3% of their GDP on the military. Also, if you come to defense, in defense, actually, the EU spends 1.63% and the United States spends 4.3%. If you come to military expenditure, the EU spends 1.82% and the United States spends 4.64%. Economically, when you want to measure economics, first of all, you have to determine the population of the country. And if you compare the land mass of the EU countries and America, the land mass of the EU countries is 4,233,255 kilometers square. And they have a population of 447 million people. While the US have land mass of 9,857,306 square kilometers, with population of 326.7 million people. And according to the World Bank, between 2008 and 2023, the EU GDP grew by 13.5%. That is from 16.37 trillion to 18.59 trillion. While that of the US grew by 87% from 14.77 to 27.72 trillion in GDP. So you can see that America has higher GDP than the all European Union put together. And you know that GDP is the gross domestic product. All the goods and services produced in a country is called gross domestic product. And the US economy remains one of the largest in the world and most technologically advanced than that of the EU countries. If you come to politics, most EU governments now came out of fragile coalition. They have fragile coalition, meaning that they are not supported by the majority of their people due to the policy that they are pursuing. If you talk about Macron of France, the same thing. If you talk of Merz of Germany, the same thing. If you talk of Starmer of UK, even though he doesn't belong in the EU, but they are all, in the same environment. They have fragile political situation compared to the American Trump. You know that Donald Trump was overwhelmingly voted, has overwhelmed support from the American people to become the president, unlike what you are obtaining in the EU countries. If you come to world influence, in world influence, America, we know that we are all living in American empire. America is the one calling the shots. They have the most intelligence. They have the most military. They have the most military setup across the board, both across the world, up to 800 military bases across the world, have sophisticated weapons. And so if you come to world influence, America is still number one. They are the one trying to decide what is going on in the world. You don't see how President Trump is pushing everything now to make peace in Ukraine, to make peace here and there, to be this and to that, and fighting with tariff and everything. So everybody is hearing about Trump, United States every time across the world. So America has very, very much and higher influence than these EU countries. And the EU countries depends on America for so many things. For example, the war in Ukraine right now, the EU countries cannot prosecute that war in Ukraine with Russia without American support. So that is why the EU is currently looking as if they are a vassal to the United States, because there's nothing they can do without involving the United States. There's nothing they can do on their own. Most of them don't have nuclear weapon. Amongst the EU countries, it's only France that has nuclear weapon. Militarily, they are not very powerful. They don't have a lot of weapons. They cannot even manufacture their own weapons, and so on and so forth. So everything they are doing, they are calling America to help them. That's why we at Economo have believed that the EU countries are vassal to the United States. They are vassal to the United States because America is the one that is helping them, calling the shots for them, deciding even who wins the election in their countries, in their respective countries. Most of them are American puppets. The one Miles in Germany is an American puppet, and so many of them. And so they are vassal to the United States. That's why we are using this lecture to encourage Africans, African countries, to stop fearing these European Union countries. Stop fearing them, because individually on their own, they don't have anything to even stop you from, taking control of your country. Do not be afraid of these countries in European Union. But remember, we're talking about European Union when all of them come together. Now, how about when you talk about like country like Germany? Germany cannot survive economically without America selling their Mercedes, their products, their Mercedes-Benz, all these, their cars, BMW, and others. It is in America they sell most of their products here in America. So Germany cannot survive economically without America, without selling their products in America. Sweden or Switzerland and Sweden manufactures and sells most of the drugs and vaccines America is using, that they sell in America. So without making these sales, without selling their drugs to America, they will suffer greatly economically. So that's why we have concluded that most of the countries in the EU, the EU countries, the EU as a union, are vassal to the United States because they depend on the United States for survival. That's what we want you to know, so that you stop thinking that they have anything to do much for you or to stop you from doing what you want to do. So whatever I want to do in Africa, please rise up and do it, because these EU countries don't have the lever to stop you from doing good for our people in Africa. Very, very, very important. And so, because we want to make today's lecture very, very short, what we are saying is that the European Union is a vassal to the United States, both in the military, economic, political, and world influence. And we are encouraging African leaders to stop fearing those EU leaders, because they don't have anything. They don't have much. They are dependent on the United States for survival. And we stated that the EU was created in 1993. From 6 members, they are now 27. And their headquarters is in Brussels, Belgium. And some of their members include Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Poland. And you know, in the famous Brexit, Britain left the EU on January 31st, 2020. And there's a lot of benefits for being a member of the EU. You can live and work there legally. You can work in any of the countries. You can visit them without visa. You can study in any of their institutions. You can benefit from their health plans, health insurance. They have free trade agreement. They can trade on each other without any tariff. They have open sky agreement also, which means their airplanes can fly back and forth without any problem. So there's a lot of benefits. But in terms of comparison with the United States, we are saying that in military expenditure, the EU spends 1.82% of their GDP, while America spends 4.64%. And if you come to defense industry, the one that manufactures weapons, the EU spends 1.63% against the US 4.3%. And so America has larger, military industrial complex and military intelligence with their satellite that is stationed above the space. And economically, also, America occupy a larger land mass. In the land, that's where you have everything. So you have more land, you have more minerals, more natural resources in the land. You can cultivate the land. You can do a lot of things with the land. In fact, the success of America today is because of all the lands that they have. So they have more land and therefore more richer than the European Union. And according to World Bank, from 2008 to 2023, the EU GDP grew by 13.5%. That is from 16.37 trillion to 18.59 trillion dollars, while that of the US grew by 87% from 14.77 trillion to 27.72 trillion dollars in GDP. So, and America remains one of the biggest, largest economies we have in the world and technologically advanced. Politically, most of the EU leaders are sitting under fragile coalition, which means they don't have the support of their people due to the policies they are making, supporting wars and wars and wars, while decreasing social benefit for their people. And so their people don't like what their government are doing right now. Unlike Donald Trump, who we are overwhelmingly voted in by majority of the people in the United States because they want him to change the country, especially his MAGA base, Make America Great Again. This MAGA base is the base that, carried everybody to vote for Donald Trump. So politically, the American political system is more stable than that of the EU members. And then in the world influence, we know that America, we are living in American empire. So America exercises all kinds of influence around the world because they have military might, they have money, they have military intelligence. And that is why the EU always attaches themselves to America, to the United States in everything that they do, because they cannot do it on their own. This NATO alliance that you see that is going on is because America is the one that is spending the money, has the military power, has the military intelligence, has what it takes to achieve victory when there should be victory. So that's why we are saying that the EU states are vassals to the United States of America. And we define a vassal state as a state which within its internal boundaries, internally, they are independent, but when it comes to foreign affairs, they are being dominated by another country. That is what you see when the peace going on in Ukraine now. Donald Trump, United States, is the one that have the cards. He is the one that is trying to make the peace, and the EU leaders, all of them are rallying around to make sure that they are not left behind. And with this, we shall be bringing today's lecture to an end. But before we do, we want to advise all Africans to stand up. It is we Africans that will develop Africa. No foreigners will develop Africa for you. By making the right decisions, first of all, taking care of our people, invest in human beings first, give the human beings food, give them electricity, give them health care, give them security. Do these 4 basic things first. Give them housing before you start building road or building any of the infrastructures, because these infrastructures you are building is for the people, it's for the human beings. We have to be living our life before, so that we can be able to be alive and enjoy those infrastructures. Please, there must be change of policy in Africa to make sure that we, citizens of Africa, we human beings in Africa, are taken care of first before any other thing. And with this, we shall be bringing today's lecture to an end. Thank you very much for joining me today, and have a very, very good one. Thank you.